I'm going to present our second speaker, Geoff Kirkwood. Geoff is decided Skype wasn't good enough. He's going to visit us here in person from Australia, and we're thrilled to have him. We had an opportunity last night to spend some really good quality time, and I'll tell you, he's a good guy. And you know, we discussed all sorts of things concerning business relationships and how we do this, how people get to trust each other and do business together, and on what bases. And I think going forward, Geoff is going to become an integral part of our organization in helping us teach all of us how to develop these relationships, how to pursue new relationships, how to get business, and how to develop our businesses using those relationships. So I could keep on going for a while, but he does a fine job all by himself. Geoff, come on up.
Thank you, Les. And what he didn't tell you was the several bottles of red that we drank last night over dinner, which of course aided the way that we got to know each other.
Didn't hurt.
Firstly, I want to thank Sarah for making a contact through LinkedIn, and I was listening to our previous speaker and can only endorse everything she said, particularly about connecting with people and the use of social media. But firstly, thank you, Sarah, for making the connection. And yes, when originally I was going to be standing in my lounge room at 10:30 at night in Australian time talking to you, the whole concept developed, and from one speaking engagement I ended up developing a world tour. So I'm leaving here to speak in London and several other locations in the United Kingdom, and then down to South Africa for a couple of engagements.
At least they'll understand you there.
So yes. Well, talking about language and relationships, we often get people come to Australia and try to imitate, because I don't speak English, I speak Australian, and we have a particular way of greeting people. So I'd like to give you a very short lesson in Australian to start with. You know, a common greeting for people when you meet someone that you know is to say, "G'day." You wish them a good day. And the term for a friend in Australia, someone that you know and someone that you like, is the word mate, M-A-T-E. But we're a slightly laid-back country and a laconical type of people, so we tend to kaleidoscope those words. We get a little bit lazy. Instead of saying 3 words, we'll say 1. So instead of saying good day, mate, we just say g'day, mate. Most people sort of say, what? Excuse me? Pardon? Whatever was that? So I'd like to teach you how to greet people in Australian. Okay, would that be a good deal to start with? Okay, so we say good day, mate, but we make it 1 word. G'day, mate. See how you go. Yeah, not bad, not bad. One more time, it's g'day, mate. Yeah, that's better, that's better. You probably haven't got quite the accent, but you've got the gist of what we're doing.
You'll have a trick to your door,
I'm in the process of building my second $1 million business. And my first one I built simply by building relationships. In fact, I've recently been featured in a book in Australia called Millionaire Mentors. And part of my role is act as a mentor to people. And what I've discovered is that if I were to survey this audience or any audience that I'm speaking to, business people, and ask them what's the single best way of building business, they would say a 3-word phrase. Anybody know what it is? Word of mouth. Exactly. Yes, there are lots of other ways to build business, but the single best, most economical way is word of mouth. And if I was to ask exactly the same group of people, because 99% of people would say word of mouth, if I was to ask them, well, what is your process and your procedure to do that? Most of them would tell me they don't have one. Firstly, they acknowledge meeting someone and developing a relationship through word of mouth is a great way, but they don't have it. They'll have a process and procedure for everything else they do in business, but they won't have one for developing contacts into relationships. So I speak about how to build $1 million relationships. And I have a step-by-step process when I meet someone. For a start, I'll accept every request to be connected to me, and I was fortunate enough to have a chat with Drew there earlier on this morning. He's given me his business card. So let me outline to you what my process is. But I'll start by asking you a question. When you connect with someone, say at a chamber meeting or a networking function, somewhere you haven't met before, and you exchange business cards, you get back to the office, what's the first thing you do? Now, this is the audience participation part where I ask the question and you give me an answer. So what would you normally do? Send them an email, yes? 75, 80% of people will tell me to send an email. Not everybody, yes, sir.
So it's you, me, John, Steve.
Okay. Then you and I are going to get on really well because that's part of my process.
I'd like that very much.
I want to ask you to think back, some of you longer than others, to the very first date you had with a girl that really grabbed your attention. She was hot, she got your attention, you wanted to follow up on it. So you had a great date, you both went home to your respective houses. Back those days they did that after a date. And then the next day you wanted to follow up on it. So of course, following the principle that a lot of people use in business these days, you'd send her an email, wouldn't you? Not. Would have to be one of the most unromantic things you could do. And yet if you think about it, when you're building a business relationship, it's not all that dissimilar to building a personal relationship like that. Yes, I'm not suggesting you're going to sleep with your customers, but some of the basic principles and the way you interact and engage with that person are much the same. So why would you send an email? Firstly, the most impersonal thing you can do, and secondly, subject to that most common button on the keyboard, which is delete. Yes. And as soon as it's deleted, out of mind. So I want to suggest to you an alternative. I have a 5-step process. So firstly, I will send Drew a personalized voice message, not voicemail. There are several apps you can use on both systems where you can actually record a little message and then send it as an MP3 file. So we'll say, "G'day Drew, great to meet you at the Microsoft store the other morning. I look forward to maintaining our connection and in the meantime wish you all the best." That's all I'll say. But what has it got? Firstly, it's got Drew's name, so it's very personal. Secondly, it's got the intonation and the warmth of my voice. So suddenly I've connected with him at a totally different level than most other people. Then I will send him a card. I use an online system called Send Out Cards that actually prints a card and posts it in the mail to him. Now you're saying, well, when are you going to make contact with him? Well, actually I have already. I won't phone Drew for about 8 or 9 days. What's happened in those 8 or 9 days? Well, everybody else he connected with at that meeting has phoned him, and what have most of them tried to do? Tried to sell him something. So when I phone him, I'll ask Drew, "Hey Drew, it's Geoff here. How you doing? Did you get my card?" Now we're connecting at a what level? Not here. We're connecting here. Connecting at a personal level, and I'm asking him about something that has absolutely nothing to do with business, but has everything to do with building a relationship with him. Obviously, I've left it long enough to know that he will have got the card, so suddenly he'll say something like, "Yeah, that was great, Geoff. I can't remember the last time I got a card in the mail." Don't let people tell you that snail mail is dead. It's not. It's just using it appropriately. So we'll start talking about the card, and then I say, "Listen, Drew, I think there might be some synergy between your business and my business. How about we get together for coffee?" At that point, I'll make a subtle change in how we interact. I say, "Look, how are you placed for next Tuesday, 10 o'clock? How about we meet at the Westchester Mall? There's a Starbucks there. What about 10 o'clock? Would that be okay for you? Tell you what, let's put aside an hour. I want to spend the first hour finding out about you. It's not about me first. And then the second half hour, I'd like to talk to you a bit about my business and see how we might work together." See, this is collaborative, it's not selling. As a result of that meeting, then I might send him my first email. Because email is a great way to transmit information. It is not a relationship building tool and never will be. But I might say at that meeting, Drew, yeah, look, I've got some stuff that you might be worth knowing about. I'll send it to you via email. I will also send him another card that says, Drew, thanks for the time. Really appreciated meeting with you. I look forward to developing this relationship further.
Do you write on a card, or do you send it a separate thing you write on for that personal note?
Using the send out card system, I can actually have my handwriting scanned into the system, and the card is written in my handwriting for me with my signature on it. I can actually put a photograph of myself if I want. Sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing. I want to build a relationship. But yeah, the card comes and it's printed out. Obviously, it's printed out on a computer, but it comes in the mail with the address and name on it. It's not a label, because we all know what label ones are. They're mass mailings. It's got a real stamp on it. So it's just like, yes, here's a card like this. High quality card, sort of thing you'd pay $5 or $6 for in a stationery store. Only difference is I can create my own.
You don't need a business card. You need
No, a real greeting card. A real greeting card. And I've got to tell you, the number of people who say, I don't remember the last time I got a card. Now, one of the other things I might have done during that meeting, I will subtly have found out what Drew's birthday is. Because I will have said to him, I won't necessarily come straight out and ask what's your birthday. I'll say something like, hey, listen, Drew, just as a little aside here while we're talking about business, do you know anything about star signs? Now, I really don't care whether he does or he doesn't. I've raised the issue subtly. I say, looking at you, yeah, I'm not quite sure, what are you? When's your birthday, Drew? Now, I guarantee you, 30 minutes later, he won't remember the fact that I got that, but of course I've written down day and month. And in the send-out card system, I've logged his birthday so that I send him a birthday card. Now, I did that with a potential client years ago, and he rang me on the day of his birthday. I was just about to leave the office, and he said to me, Geoff, I really want to say thank you for the birthday card. I said, Darryl, that's fine, look, no problem. He said, no, I really want to say thank you because yours was the only card I got. Was I glad I sent that card? You bet. Did that make a difference to our relationship? Absolutely. So then I'll start to develop the relationship. But that's that 5-step process that I'm talking about. Now, I managed to build in Australia, Australia's biggest referral networking organisation. Some of you would know the name, BNI, Business Network International. When I got involved in it at the national level, we had 40 groups. And we were just starting in the state I lived in, and when I sold it, some 6 years later, we had 180 groups. And I did that only. We never advertised. We did it simply by building better business relationships. That's why I talk about building million-dollar relationships, because that's what that business ended up being, a million-dollar business when I sold it. And all I did was follow the 5-step process that I'm talking to you with everyone I ever met. And it is translatable at certain levels, even to the electronic media. You heard our previous speaker talk about LinkedIn, and I was chatting to a little earlier there about how I connect on LinkedIn. And most people, when they ask you to be connected, you've got the button where you can say accept. And that's what most people do, just say accept and that's it. Yes, I do that. Actually, my PA does it, because I don't pay her anywhere near as much as I pay myself, but she will cut and paste a text file she has on her desktop and insert the first name. So the response to Drew would be, "G'day, Drew. Thanks for asking to be connected. Happy to accept." And then it will go on and make a comment about my business. I can't tell you the number of times people have come back to me and said things like, "Wow, I actually got a personalised response," because they're used to just accept, or a bland one that says, "Dear subscriber, dear customer, dear prospect." Who the hell's prospect? Just as a little aside, I often see people who haven't cottoned onto the idea of business relationships. So their business card, email address will say info@ or admin@. Yet when I look their name, it isn't info or admin. And you might smile at that. But you would all agree, I'm sure you're all successful business people. That is the little things that make the difference in business, not the big things. If you get the little things right, then the rest of those things will take care of themselves. And never forget that who are we dealing business with? We're dealing business with people. We're dealing business with people like ourselves who have mortgages and families and illness and car problems and sickness and holiday problems and challenges in their business and debtors who won't pay them, etc., just like us. So if we reach out and recognise them as individuals, treat them that way and build a relationship with them as Geoff to Drew, not my company to your company, then I absolutely guarantee you it will make enormous difference. But it's the point that most people miss about networking and building relationships, that you're building a relationship with a real live person. And there is no sweeter sound to another person than what? Their name. Get it right, of course. Learn how to pronounce it. These days with the multicultural society we have, that's a challenge sometimes. But it behooves you to find out how to pronounce, and I will always ask, excuse me, I'm looking at your card and I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name. Will you help me, please? I've never had anybody refuse. Because what am I actually doing to them? I'm paying them a compliment that I want to get their name right. So, let's just summarise. And then I'd like to leave it open for some questions. First point of contact, I accept every request for contact, whether it's electronically or face-to-face. Interestingly, I had somebody say the other day to me on LinkedIn, well, I don't accept connections unless from people that I know. To which my response was, so if I met you at a chamber meeting and we'd never met before, you would refuse to hand me your card? Oh no, I wouldn't do that. Well, that's exactly what you're doing electronically. The only ones I don't accept, of course, are from Nigeria. Because I'm a billionaire 5 times over from all those connection requests. But other than that, I will accept everyone. And some people say, well, what's the point of that? I may never do business with that person, but it's the people they know that I currently have over 4,000 first level connections, which means that I have about 1.5 million second level connections that I can connect with. So accept every request, have a process. It doesn't even have to be done personally by you to start with. Most of those connection requests are done by my PA, except for, of course, the first voicemail. And when I meet someone after, say, a chamber meeting, I'll often sit in my car, put their email address and their name, that's all I need, into this app, and I'll record a message. In many cases, that's on their computer or their smartphone before they get back to their office. Do you think that makes a difference? Absolutely. Then I send them the card. I wait until everybody else has badgered them. And of course, until the card's got there. And I ring them and talk to them about that card first. That's the connection. They're expecting me to talk to them about business, and I'm talking to them about something personal. And then, of course, we follow up, we have a meeting, I send them another card, and then I might start using email to facilitate ease of communication with information that we both need. Guarantee you that process works. And it's an easy one. Once you adopt it and get it set in stone as part of the process for your business, particularly for most of you if you have a PA that does it, with the exception of the first one, everyone up to the point where you actually have the meeting can be done by someone else. So, does that make sense, firstly? Universal sign of acknowledgement is say yes. Okay. Did you pick up an idea from that process that you might like to use? Yeah. Okay, so we got time for a couple of questions, Les. Don't be shy, yes.
How do you adjust your process if the person that you're looking to make contact with is remotely, is in a geographic remote location? You don't have the ability to economically meet with them in person.
Good question. And I have to say, Drew, I doubt very seriously that I'm going to hop on a plane and come back over to hold that coffee meeting with you. Sorry, don't mean to offend you. But what of the facility we're just using here with our previous speaker by Skype? The next best thing I can use these days. It's not quite as same as being there over a cup of coffee, but face to face with my voice, the inflection in my voice, when I ask a question, they can hear I mean, you all know as well as I do that you can ask a question. So what do you mean by that? Or what does that mean? Totally different emphasis. So if I do it by Skype, then I can get very close to having that face-to-face meeting. Yes?
I was using some stuff with, actually with Fandango that had the voice,
Yes?
and I loved it over the holidays because I got really cool responses. What do you use for your general run-of-the-mill? What software are you using to record?
Let's just say, for the sake of what we're talking about here in this particular location, it's not something that is on this side of the fence, but I'm happy to talk to you afterwards rather than say it publicly here in this store. Okay? Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for your attention. I hope you've learned something today. And yes, you have one more? No? Okay. Les, back to you.
Geoff didn't hold up his book. He's on the cover. He sent me a book, and I appreciate that. You're going to have to sign it before you leave. But
Yes.
Networking, relationships, I think what we've explored with each other in the last 24 hours is just an example of that. Doing business with people is a wonderful thing because we're doing business with people.
Real people. Yeah.
Real people. So I've learned a lot.